Enjoy this video, and it's called Floating Frame Technique with Window Sheets. And if you haven't seen it before, I do hope that you enjoy it. Now I'm going to turn my camera. It's going to make you a little bit dizzy, probably, if you get dizzy when you do stuff like this. And I'm going to bring it up and stick it in my holder right there. That wasn't too bad. Someday I'll be able to afford all that fancy stuff where I can just switch pictures and all that kind of stuff, but I can't do that now. That's not in my league yet. So here's what we are doing. Here's all of my information, my host code, and my email, my YouTube channel, my Facebook group, my website. So if you want any of that information, you can screenshot that right now. Here's the cards. I'm actually going to be doing the center card. I kind of did a little thing on my Facebook Live and asked them which card they like. This one won. This one, then this one, then this one. So this one, of course, is using cardstock. This one's using Designer Series paper, and this again is using cardstock, but in different sizes. So there's a lot of difference to it here. All of them have dies on them and that. So, I don't know why my iPad's not making my picture big. That's funny. That is crazy. So anyway, I just wanted to show all these to you. We're going to get started on this one. I'll give you the measurements and everything we did, but you can go ahead, and if you go over to Facebook and join my group there, you can pull off this and get the PDFs. Here's the one for today. It gives you the picture, the supplies, and then the directions. Okay, and I am going to try to bring my, it looks like we are just really away from the camera somewhat. See if that helps. There we go. Maybe that'll help a little bit. So what I'm going to do is move this sheet out of the way. That was my information if you needed it, right here. And then I'll let you screenshot that if you need it. So I'll leave it there for a second while I get my stamp set ready. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to set this up out of the way a little bit in just a second. Here's the stamp set that I used because I only used the words. I used the happy birthday. This is the Flowing Flowers, which I absolutely love. And actually, I'm getting ready to do a card kit to go where you can buy the supplies I'll put together for you to make. I don't know if it's going to be 9 cards or 12 cards, but it'll be somewhere in between there. And I'm finishing that up, and you would get all the supplies and that to do that. So when I get that ready, I'll come back with a video about that. So we're using this. We're also using the circle dies, and I'm using the second to the largest one, which is this one right here. We'll be using that. And I also use the pieces, the flowery pieces out of the Honeybee Blooms die set. And we also will be using this embossing folders. It comes in a set with these two. They're called Stripes and Splatters. And we're going to be using the stripe. And I don't know if you can tell on the card. Let me lift it up. But that's the background on the white. So, we're going to be doing that, so we can get started on that right here. We're going to take a piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 11, and we are going to fold that. I had it scored. Hope I had it scored right. There's stuff all over my table. So anyway, there will be our card base. And then what we are going to do, we are going to take, I'm going to move that away. This is 5 by 3 3/4. That will be our white piece for the front. This is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and it just gives you a small 1/8 inch border around, like so. When we get ready to glue that on, we are going to be using a piece of the window sheets, 3 1/2 by 3 1/2, which is this right here. That wants to cling. There it is. I hope you can see that. See how it likes to cling there? We will be using this. And then we have strips of Highland Heather and Pear Pizzazz that we will be using. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to emboss this. And I didn't do it beforehand because I wanted to show you how I put it in the embossing machine. So I'm going to use my plates 1, 2, and 3 on my Stamp Emboss machine. I will be using the stripes right here, and I'm going to move that over since I brought the camera up. It's going to be big. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this like this, because I want those stripes to be going across horizontally instead of vertically. So can you see my piece of paper there, how that goes? So how I fit it in there. So what I can do when I lay this on my embossing machine this way, here's my embossing folder, and then it will not emboss this part of the white. So let's do that real quick. And my table will probably shake, and if it does, I'm sorry. But, oh, I forgot. You know what? I told you the wrong thing. We will be using plate number 1 and plate number 4. And I knew that. Which goes, this is for 3D embossing folders. There we go. See how much easier that is? So, anyway, just got ahead of myself there. Was using what we were going to use on the dies, which we will be doing that shortly. So I'm going to move this back out of the way. And there is my embossing sheet. See how that looks? And then I have this plain down here to where I can stamp on it. Okay, let's move that out of the way. I'm going to bring in the Happy Birthday set, and what I did in here is it's Happy Birthday, time for a happy dance. We will be using that as our inside of our card. So let's do our Happy Birthday first on the front. Then that way we know where to put our ribbon. So I'm just going to ink this up. I just kind of go around my pad just to make sure I get good ink on there. And I'm going to stamp it down here at the bottom. And there we go. So what I'm going to do while I have my black ink out is I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to stamp the inside with time for a happy dance. You know, maybe some people don't want to do a happy dance when they have their birthday. I don't know. My take on birthdays like that is just be glad you lived another year to tell about it. So we're going to just stamp this right here. Okay, there is that part done. And we'll lay this back to the side. I'm going to go ahead and bring this in, and I'm going to put my white piece on it. See how it kind of curls because how it went through the embossing machine? I want to get that to lay flat. So let's, where that embossing is, I want to put quite a bit of glue. That way I know it will hold it down. So I'll just lay that on there. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to rub really good, especially where that embossing is, so that that adhesive can really soak into the cardstock and hold it. I'm going to go ahead and put my ribbon on it. And what I do with my ribbon, I'm going to bring this around, and I'm putting it right here towards the bottom of that last line. So I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to take my Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to put a little seal there. And hope I got that straight. Let's look. Yes, it is. So I'm just pushing that down. I'm going to take my scissors, trim this piece off, like so. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to my card. And actually, I am going to do that with dimensionals. And I am rather generous with my dimensionals here because I want this to really stand up well. And I'm going to put one on each side of that ribbon there, and then in the middle. And that should hold it up really well. Then we'll take all those little pieces off. Some people like to use their pick tool, which I like to, but I always forget about it to get it out. And this is sometimes just faster for me. Yep, I got them all off. So what I'm going to do is put this on the front of my card. And now I'm going to take this piece of ribbon, I'm going to slide it up through the ribbon I just put on there, and I'm going to tie, I'm just going to tie a 1-loop knot because it's so bulky. And I'm just going to bring that through. And I'm just going to knot it. And what I'm going to do, I'll show you real quick here. Before I take that off, I'm going to take my glue dots. I hate these glue dots. It's on the wrong, it feels like it's on the wrong side to me. I'll be glad when I use them up. I got a whole other box of them yet. So I'm putting that in under there, and that's going to hold this knot down at the same time that it holds the little as it holds these little streamers down. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And then I'm going to take one more dot. And I'm going to lift that up and just gently put that in under that knot to hold it to the cardstock. So that's going to hold my knot together. And I'm going to trim this one just a little bit more. There we go. There we go. So we have our card made, and now we are going to do our technique. And the reason why I did the card is so I could just go ahead and get everything out of the way. So all of that is out of the way. So let's do this next part. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this 3.5 by 3.5 inch square. Bring that one back in. I'm going to take a piece of grid paper and I'm going to lay this on these dark lines. I'm going to start, and this dark line right here is the one I'm going to keep looking at as I go. Okay? The one that's going horizontally. So I'm going to just line that up with those. I'm going to bring my strips in. And it doesn't matter what you start with as far as your strips are concerned. You can start with whatever size you want to. I am going to start, I think, with a green one first. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring also in my silicone mat. And the reason being is not necessarily on this wide one, but on the other ones, I want to not get glue all over my table area. So I'm using these Stampin' Seal. You don't want to use a liquid glue on this. It's too messy. It doesn't dry on the window sheet very well. So this or glue dots is what I find works the best. Now what I'm going to do is I've got that lined up at that top line there. I'm going to just line this up across. And that's my first line, okay? So that's the first one. Then I'm going to come in with another color. And I think I'll come in with the purple, of course, because I'm doing two colors. So I'm just going to move this up a little bit. Probably this was not quite, it was almost on that. So I'm going to move it to it's right below this one. I want it about halfway. But I'm going to look at that line. It's going to tell me that it's straight. I'm going to lay this on my craft sheet, and I'm going to, well, yeah, I'm going to, there. If you don't get the ends of this, it's okay, because you're going to be cutting that out with a circle. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see, this edge is leaning over. I'm just going to take and push that back. You don't have to cut this off or nothing, that even though it's wider. Just push it back onto itself on both sides if you have some, and have it stick. On these littler pieces. You could use your glue dots if you wanted to, but I really like this, and it lays really, really flat. So I'm just rubbing my fingers down that, making sure I got that pretty well sealed back there. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to go right at this little line, and I'm going to put this down. Now you don't have to do that. If you think that you've got, you know, you can make sure it's straight, that's good. I don't always use this, but then I'm going to move that up about a half for my next one. I'm going to come back in with green, and I'm going to use one that is about a 1/2 inch. That one is 3/4. The top one is 3/4. I cut 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch. Well, that's crazy. They just pulled the layer. Why isn't that glue in that? It pulled the whole layer off. That's funny. I've never had one of these do that before. Because it's at the end, I guess. I'm going to try it again. I might not be using one of these. Well, that's funny. That is at the very end, and I guess that's how that works. So I'm going to bring in my little one that I have sitting here. I'm not going to go get a refill. I didn't realize that was so low. So I'm going to bring back in a 3/4 inch one because that's what I have sitting here. No, I have one that's about a 1/2 inch. Let's use it. This is probably a little under a 1/2 inch, but that's okay because it doesn't matter if they're exactly the same size. In fact, it looks prettier if they're not. So we're going to bring that in. Then I think we'll bring a 3/4 inch purple. Let's move that up just a little bit. Make sure I keep my little lines straight there. Put this down. Okay, let's do a green 1/4 inch. There again, I'm going to make sure all of my sides are done well. Bring this up just a little bit. Set this one down. Okay, we're going to do one more. And although it is little, I'll put a 1/2 inch strip down there. It might hang off the side, but that's okay too. Or off the end because we'll be cutting that off. So there we go, we have our grid down now. So now we're going to have to cut that out. So let's move everything out of our way again. This is like move, put it back, move and put it back, move and put it back. So we're going to cut this out with the second largest circle, which is this one right here. And that will go right here. So actually, I need to bring in my Big Shot, or my stamp emboss machine. Haven't used a Big Shot in a good while. I don't know why once I keep saying that, but I do. So I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to lay this down to see where I want that to go. And when I do this, I'm going to turn this around. When I do this, I am going to run it through about 4 times. So I'm going to go to the front. Make sure it goes all the way through, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to go again. And I'm going to come back one more time. Because we're going through cardstock and a window sheet, which are all thick. So it takes a little bit more to cut it. So we'll move this out of our way now. Get all that out of the way. Take our die. So it doesn't always cut through every bit of it, but let's see if it did. It did. Oh, but that little bitty part right there. What about that? bring in my paper snips and just help it along right there. There we go. This little piece came off of the top, and I don't think it's sticky enough to stay. We shall see. We'll see if we can fix that. If not, we'll let it go. I'm going to fix it with that one. Let me see if I can get that glued back on. There we go. It's back on there. And the same way with this little one. I haven't had that happen out of all the ones I've done. Of course it would happen tonight. It's because it was such a little piece. And there we go. We got them both back on there. Now we are ready to put that on our card. And what we do here to make it floating, like this one, how it stands up and it kind of looks like the cardstock is floating, it's not on the card. We're going to turn it over onto the back side. And I am going to use some, you can use your dimensionals, or you can use the dimensional lines that we have, strips. And these came out of the another kit that we had, of the birthday kit. So I'm just going to take and use these. I think they're easier to use than the dimensionals because you don't have to keep placing them. So just put those down, trim it, and I'm going to use that piece right here. Okay, so there we have that ready to go onto the front of our cards. So let's just peel the papers. And I'm going to stick this on the front of my card. I have my purple up there first. So I'll just stick it right about here. And it is popped up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add me some of my die cuts here. And I think what I'm going to do